My first thought was, what do you think? Were you satisfied with Trump's answer? Did you feel like in that back and forth, it was even longer than what we played, did you get an answer?
Hi everybody, my name is Michael. This is my YouTube page, Mox News. Thanks for tuning in. Okay, so this is exactly why Americans hate mainstream media news. It's because you have a chance, because you don't do your job. You have a chance to inform the American people, and instead you bring on an idiot who's clearly confused about the facts, and instead of you doing your job and challenging him on his confusion so as not to confuse more American people, you act like his confusion is completely legitimate. And maybe it's not clear whether or not George Bush lied us into war in Iraq. But it is clear. We all know that as fact. Don't you know that, Poppy? Don't you know that, Anderson Cooper? How dare you not? I mean, this guy, you can look at him and say, hey, you can have your beliefs, but the facts are the facts. George Bush knew there was no weapons of mass destruction. George Bush knew the aluminum tubes were not being used to build rockets. George Bush knew there was no uranium. They made it all up. Why? And Trump needs to stop acting like he doesn't know why they would do that. He says this is the worst decision any president has made in American history. I have to agree. You know, they completely destabilized the Middle East. They spent trillions of dollars, thousands of Americans injured, killed, murdered by George Bush and Dick Cheney, rushed into war in Iraq. Rushed so quickly into war in Iraq that they didn't even have proper body armor. There wasn't enough. You guys remember this, right? At the beginning of the Iraq War, the soldiers on the front lines didn't have proper body armor because there wasn't enough of it to go around, because we had to get them in there right now. Because we didn't want the smoking gun to come in the form of a mushroom cloud that didn't fucking exist. They lied, they lied, they lied. And for you prostitutes, Poppy, to sit there and act like you don't know what the facts are, or it's legitimate to act like you don't know what the facts are, like it's undecided whether or not George Bush lied, is exactly why the American people find you disgustingly repulsive. You need to go away. You make Americans look stupid. Not only that, you make Americans stupid by acting like it's not your job to inform them of the facts. You stupid fucking prostitute. Anderson Cooper, how dare you not say simply, well, the facts are that he did lie. But, let's let Donald go ahead and answer your question. The facts are George Bush lied. The whole administration. And the reason that the media doesn't want to hold them accountable, the prostitutes don't want to hold them accountable, because they act like they didn't know that he was lying. They still want to cling to that, oh, well, we're really not culpable because we didn't do our jobs and check the facts and make the American people aware of the fact that they were being lied into a war in Iraq. They're culpable for the deaths of 1 million Iraqis. The media, and you, Poppy, by continuing the lie, are culpable. This is why the American people hate you. In case you're wondering why your popularity is equal to Congress. Because you're full of shit, Poppy. Alright, so if you guys want to see Donald Trump's full town hall from this exchange, not just this exchange between him and this guy who is playing like, I can't hear you. I don't want to know the truth. Nope, 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 nope. I can't hear a word you're saying. Guy. I don't know the facts. I don't want to know the facts. Guy. My president would never lie. Guy. If you want to see the full town hall with Donald Trump's section of it anyways, it's posted at alternate Mox News YouTube page because Mox News is having trouble with copyrights because of posting debates. The ABC debate got a copyright strike for that. The CBS debate got a copyright strike on the alternate news page. So limited to 15 minutes on those two. I have a third alternate Mox News page. It's in a clickable link in the text body of this video. Right below the video, you see a little box that says show more. It says alternate Mox News YouTube page. Click here. Go there. You can find Donald Trump's full town hall session from last night. And there's also a session with Bernie Sanders from last night, a town hall session, and one with Hillary Clinton. So if you'd like to see those in full, you can click the link in the text body of this video. There's also a spot where you can make a contribution to Mox News if you want to buy me lunch. I really like lunch. Okay? And I really appreciate when you guys buy me lunch. So if you can, that would be very nice of you.
All right, welcome back. I'm Poppy Harlow in today for Brooke Baldwin. Something just in from the Vatican in terms of the back and forth between the Pope and Donald Trump. The Vatican spokesperson, Father Federico Lombardi, just saying that the Pope's comments on the plane, as you heard them yesterday, about Donald Trump were, quote, not a personal attack nor an indication of how to vote. The Vatican went on to say that the Pope said what we already know when we follow his teachings and his position, that we should not be building walls, but building bridges. The Vatican went on to say he has always said this and continues to do so. So interesting, the Vatican saying this, although it was a response to a question about Donald Trump and what the Pope makes of him, was not about Donald Trump, specifically was not a personal attack or an indication of who to vote for. We'll see what Donald Trump says in response. More on that in a moment. Moving on now, though, from the moment that he launched his campaign, Donald Trump has said the invasion of Iraq was a, quote, mistake. But what has been less clear throughout is whether the man who is the Republican frontrunner has always felt that way, and also whether he thinks that former President George W. Bush lied about weapons of mass destruction as a reason to get into Iraq. At the Republican town hall that CNN hosted last night, an audience member wanted an answer, wanted clarity. Listen.
Well, a lot of people agree with what I said, and I'm not talking about lying. I'm not talking about not lying. Nobody really knows why we went into Iraq. The Iraqis did not knock down. It was not Saddam Hussein that knocked down the World Trade Center. Okay,
that's just what you said was they lied. They said there were weapons of mass destruction, and there were none, and they knew there were none. There were no weapons of mass destruction.
Well, there are a lot of people that think that. There were a lot of people that think, look, bottom line, there were no weapons of mass destruction. They said there are weapons of mass destruction. I was against the war when it started.
Do you think the president of the United States, George W. Bush, lied?
Well, look,
to the
I'm not going to get
American
you a vote,
people?
but that's okay. Let me
I'm just giving you another shot.
Let me tell you something. I'll tell you very simply. It may have been the worst decision going into Iraq, may have been the worst decision anybody has made, any president has made in the history of this country. That's how bad it is, okay?
And joining me now is the man who posed that question, Dr. Oren Smith. He is the president and CEO of the Palmetto Family Council, an evangelical nonprofit. Thank you for joining me.
Good to be with you.
My first thought was, what do you think? Were you satisfied with Trump's answer? Did you feel like in that back and forth, it was even longer than what we played, did you get an answer?
Well, I got close to an answer. There was a lot of verbiage. I had to go back and read the CNN transcript to get a feel for exactly what was said. I know I look like a really stern guy. I really didn't mean to be a stern guy. I didn't mean to be necessarily appear to be putting him on the spot. I honestly thought he was probably going to take back the liar comment, and then we got into the war, and it became a war discussion. I wasn't really interested in a war discussion.
When he said to you, and I'm going to quote here, look, I'm not going to get your vote, but that's okay, how did that make you feel?
Well, I think he was I got the sense he was directing that sort of at me, but really sort of at the audience. He was having a good night interplaying with the audience, and I thought that was really more for their benefit than my benefit, actually.
So you didn't feel like it was dismissive?
No. You know, he has a way of looking stern and then smiling, and I got a pretty good vibe from him. I don't think he was being dismissive. I'm not sure he cared for the question very much, to be honest, because it was one of the few. There were really two questions last night that were pretty tough questions that were addressed to him. He might have gotten the two toughest questions of the whole evening. Don't think he was thrilled with the question, but he gave it a shot. I got most of what I wanted. I wanted him to back off that our president, and you know, I defended the president when he was president, George W. Bush. I was just uncomfortable with the word liar. That's a very strong word to call the last Republican president for someone like me who's voted in Republican primaries since Ronald Reagan.
Well, we know how popular the former President George W. Bush is in your state, right down there in South Carolina. Has this swayed?
Oh yeah, very popular.
Has this swayed how you will vote, and if you are comfortable sharing it publicly? I mean, is there a candidate you're backing?
Well, you know, one thing that's happened, and I've noticed I had a lot to learn about Twitter and social media, because social media is sort of blown up, and I found all these things about myself that I didn't know, that I was fronting for Ted Cruz, I was fronting for Anderson Cooper, I'm fronting for Marco. Look, I'm just a poor public policy guy, faith-based policy group guy. I'm just asking questions I think are important. I'm not being paid to ask these questions. I'm not fronting for anybody. It was very personal for me. I was stung, and I think I relayed it on the air. I shouldn't relay it again, but I said some words in front of my children I shouldn't have because of what I heard about our former president. So, and I wanted some closure. I wanted to give him a chance to take it back.
Might Trump get your vote?
You know, I met with him about 5 years ago in his office in New York City. I found him to be a great listener. I found him to be articulating some very conservative positions, and I've always held him out there. But the whole issue of what he said about the former president is still tugging at me as a negative, and it's kind of taking away from his candidacy in my opinion.
All right, well, we'll see what you do tomorrow. And about that social media stuff, don't take it too seriously. It happens to us all. Doctor, thank you very much.
Thanks for the lesson.
Thank you very much. Coming up next.
Compassion stirred the Buddha to send his monks out into the community. Sworn to chastity and poverty, they wandered the roads, bringing the Buddha's teachings into the world. Go forth, monks, for the happiness of the many, out of compassion for the world. There are beings whose eyes have little dust on them, who will perish if they do not hear the teaching. But if they hear the teaching, they will gain liberation.
The monks exist by begging. We think of begging as kind of a bad thing. Begging in this tradition is a good thing. It's a sign of spiritual purity.
You're not allowed to beg tomorrow's lunch today. Only today's lunch. Then you can't eat from noon until dawn the next day. Then you have to go out and get another lunch. And then in exchange for lunch, you give a lecture. Unless they say we don't want to hear about it, then you don't. But that's the only thing but that forces you to interact with the lay community.
And if you're not serving them, if you're not doing something useful for them, they won't put anything in your bowl, and that will be the end of your community.